pudding, I'm making chocolate mousse, but not chocolate mousse as you know it, but an Iberian-inspired chocolate olive oil mousse. I want 4 eggs, separated. So far, so traditional. And I want the eggs at room temperature. Well, I nearly always do. And the last one. Before I whisk the whites, I'm just going to add a pinch of sea salt flakes. And here goes. I want firm peaks here. Let's see. Yes, perfect. And before I whisk the yolks, I want some sugar, just 50 grams. It's caster sugar. I want some salt in here too. I suppose were I to measure, I'd say 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt flakes. And it doesn't make it taste salty, it just brings balance. Somehow you taste the chocolate all the more. I want to whisk the yolks until they're thickened and about doubled in volume. That's the whites done, the yolks done, and now for the chocolate. I've got 150 grams there, melted and slightly cooled. And on top of the chocolate, I'm going to pour the olive oil, extra virgin, 100 mils. I like a smooth and spicy olive oil, nothing too raspingly peppery. Mix these together. And the thing is, the olive oil doesn't just bring its resonant flavour, it also creates such a voluptuously smooth and soft texture. And now I'm going to pour this glossy mixture into the yolks. In a steady stream, that's the idea. This is really good bitter chocolate, 70%. Don't be tempted to go higher though, because you'll end up with a powdery texture. Right, I'm going to fold in the egg whites, 1/3 at a time. And you can be really brutal with the first go. Stir it in. The first dollop really is just to make the rest of the egg whites easier to fold in. So if I want this in thirds, it's half what's in the bowl now. And now, gently fold. The texture of this mousse is not super aerated as you would have in a traditional chocolate mousse, but I still don't want to beat out those bubbles. And the last bit. I know this seems very last minute, but unlike a traditional mousse, which needs to sit in the fridge for a good long time to set, the whole point of this chocolate olive oil mousse is that the texture isn't set, it's soft and smooth. So my chocolate mousse is made, but now for the difficult part. I have to fill these glasses. Just ignore me, because I'm going to have to concentrate. They're pretty small, these glasses. But believe me, you know you can. You don't need anything bigger. This is fabulously rich. Right, last one. I like a little pause before pudding, which is good, as these need 20 minutes in the fridge before eating. I need to get on with the cake ahead of time. I want 4 large eggs and 125 grams of caster sugar, and I whisk these together. This is a flourless cake made with ground almonds. I need 75 grams and then 2 tablespoons of cocoa. I just fork to mix. Meanwhile, my eggs and sugar should be thick and moussey and at least doubled in volume. Then I slowly add the almond and cocoa mixture. I add 3 tablespoons of amaretto liqueur to melted dark chocolate and butter, 100 grams of each, slightly cooled in a bowl. Whisking gently now, I pour this in a slow and steady stream into the batter. The combination of ground almonds and amaretto gives this rich chocolate cake a marzipan-y depth. When I've got what looks like a billowy chocolate mousse, I pour and scrape it into a lined 20cm spring-form tin. This needs 20 to 25 minutes in an oven preheated to 180 degrees. So you can see why I call this my Sunken Chocolate Amaretto Cake, and it leaves a rather pretty frill around the outside. And I'm going to give this rich, squidgy-bellied cake a velvety dusting of cocoa. I want it thickly covered like a bitter chocolate truffle. And underneath this powdery Aztec brown, its interior is dense and dark. Now, actually, this cake is a twofold pleasure, because with it comes my amaretti cream. I've got 250 mils of double cream here, and I'm going to add a slug of amber amaretto liqueur, answering the sweet song of the cake. I'm going to whip this until it's thickened but still soft and floppy. It doesn't take very long. When I call this amaretti cream, I meant amaretti cream, not amaretto, because I'm now going to add some crumbled amaretti biscuits. Just crumble them in. Like the cake, they seem to have that balance of bitterness and marzipan-y sweetness. Fold these in, and the cream will thicken a bit more as I fold. They add an almost honeycomb crunch to the smoothness of the soft cream. And that's exactly right. I'm going to fill up an old favourite of mine. And before I take this to the table, I'm just going to add one final golden crumble. Right. That's the sound I want to hear. eager. That's a good thing. I didn't mean to sound at all critical. Oh, you're putting it on top. That's radical. It's beautiful. That's it. I think Leah's got a future as everything, huh?
Do you know where you're going to put them now? Oh,
yeah, go on.
I want one on top, I want one on top. Come on.
Brilliant.
That's
Very good. Excellent. First chocolate. So I'm getting in the, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting so excited.
I like the cream.
yeah, the cream is
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the cream really makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the cake, but I think it's with the cream that
Could you make an amaretto ice cream?
you can make anything you want.
Yeah, with the crunch.
In or out of the kitchen, balance is all important. But for me, a life cannot be a balanced one if there's no room in it for chocolate cake. And I have a radical new one in mind. My brand new creation is a chocolate licorice layer cake. Sandwiched with jam, draped with chocolate, and topped with blackcurrants. And I'm ecstatic about it. I've restocked my licorice box. Now, I know the world divides into licorice loathers and licorice lovers, but I'm on a crusade, and I have made a few conversions. The combination of chocolate and licorice is a revelation. These chocolate licorice almonds are, I describe as entry level. But this licorice-filled chocolate bar is decidedly for the mature student. Moving to warp factor 9, this salty licorice syrup is the antichrist for licorice loathers. But for me, this drizzled over ice cream is a sensation. This is where my love affair with licorice started. I used to spend all my pocket money on these blackcurrant and licorice sweets. What I savoured and still do is that balance between bright, sharp blackcurrant and warm, deep licorice. This is yin and yang in confectionery form, and I knew I had to emulate this in a cake. To do so, I put chocolate into the partnership, and I use fine licorice powder. This is much more like a spice, bringing a subtle bloom after the bite, and it's my secret weapon for luring licorice loathers over to my side. This cake isn't just divine to eat, it's also really easy to make. Just a case of mixing wet ingredients into dry. I'll start with a dry, plain flour, and enough sugar to balance the immense amount of bitter cocoa that comes after. On top of that, baking powder and bicarb, without which the cake will not rise enough. And last to go into the dry ingredients is fine licorice powder, enough to give a pronounced hit, but trust me, the effect is oh so subtle. Then the wet ingredients, just 3. First milk, you can use semi-skimmed, but I use almond milk, not least because then it's a dairy-free cake for those who want it so. Next, some sunflower oil, and then eggs. And once combined, they can be added to the dry ingredients. This is when the magic happens. The pale speckled flour is transformed into a glistening rich mahogany paste.
becomes a glossy batter thanks to the addition of some water from a recently boiled kettle. I whisk this in swiftly, then pour the smooth chocolatey batter into 2 lined and greased sandwich tins. And don't even think of using loose bottom ones or the batter will escape. These need about 25 minutes in a moderate oven, then let them cool.
My cakes have been waiting so patiently to be iced, and I'm happy to oblige. In fact, I'm quite excited. Now, the icing should be a subtle echo of the flavours in the cake, so I'm starting with a whisper of licorice. Just to dissolve that, a bit of hot water. Oh, and now I have some information to impart. I'm going to show you my magic trick. I take this, I put a bit of oil in it. Let's brush it. And because I'm using golden syrup, it won't stick. This is good for honey, treacle, anything like this. And now I will perform said magic trick. All comes out. I'm going to give it a quick stir. And while this comes to a bubble, I'm going to top my chocolate, the last and very important ingredient in the icing. This chocolate is good and dark, a bitter hit against the ambrosial sweetness of the golden syrup. I like bashing this into smithereens. Getting a bit obsessive now. I'm marshalling my chocolate rubble. My bronze liquid is bubbling. So, heat off. This is crucial. The rubble tumbles in. And I just need to swirl the pan, it's not very demanding work, so that the chocolate is submerged and I can get on with filling the cake. The cakes will look quite flat at this stage, they're meant to. Now, one cake down here. I talked earlier about the inspiration for this cake and the sweets of my childhood, so it's only right that the filling for this cake should be blackcurrant jam. Oh, I love its malevolent glint. And the sharpness of the jam is just what you need to punctuate that rather sort of husky licorice quality. And now lid on. And it's ready to receive a swathe of glossy chocolate. Whisk it on. Needs a bit of coaxing. Try. I'm not a neat freak, and I love it when the chocolate drips down the edges. Blackcurrants can be quite hard to find, although you can sometimes get them frozen. However, I have been known to scrummage about a frozen packet of mixed berries just to get the blackcurrants for this. It's not the most exciting work, but it's worth it.